Excellent!
What's up guys, welcome back to Paul's Hardware. This is my second Ryzen video where I'm going to be talking about overclocking as well as hopefully some additional coverage on not just the 1800X, which is installed right here, but also the 1700 and 1700X right here. And I'm going to keep this kind of open and just kind of take you guys through my day. I'm going to be validating my tests with Grand Theft Auto at 1080 because that's where I saw the biggest amount of disparity in my initial tests that I posted yesterday. And I'm also going to be using Cinebench R15 just to validate as we move through if our overclocking is actually getting us additional performance or less performance, or if some of the sort of tweaks and changes that have been suggested by AMD and some of the other motherboard manufacturers are actually having much of a significant impact. I spent the evening last night setting up yet another new test bed, or sort of reconfiguring one of my old ones. For the motherboard, I have the Asus Crosshair 6 Hero. It's using the latest BIOS version that's available, 5704. I'm told there's another BIOS revision probably coming out next week, and there have also been microcode updates that AMD is working on. So there are updates to a lot of this hardware that has just launched that should theoretically improve performance to some degree. Now this motherboard has a unique feature with the AM4 boards in that it has a mounting solution not just for AM4, but Asus also managed to do AM3 mounts on there as well. So because of that, I was able to upgrade the cooling solution to a Corsair H100i V2. Now bear in mind, if you guys are planning on doing something like this at home, you might want to consider that the back plate, which is required for the Corsair H100i V2, the one that comes with this motherboard is still an AM4 backplate. So I was actually forced to take the backplate for AM3 for my Sabertooth 990FX revision 2 in order to actually get that to fit on there. Anyway, all that being said, make sure you've got the proper backplate. So that's definitely doing a better job keeping things cool. Just in my brief testing I've done so far, it's already about a good 5 to 10 degrees cooler, I'd say, than my initial test from yesterday. For the graphics card, we got an EVGA GeForce GTX 1080 for the Win 2. That's their ICX version, so this is overclocked out of the box, and I am running it at overclock speeds. I'm using the same Corsair Vengeance LPX memory kit. That's 2 by 8 gigs. I'm going to set this to 3000 speed. Although for these initial tests, I've just been running it at stock 2133. I also did a much nicer SSD with this build. I have the Patriot Hellfire 480 gig SSD, and I have a fresh install of Windows 10 on that. Like just installed last night, did all the Windows updates. I'm running the latest version of the NVIDIA drivers 378.66, which is available. And I think that pretty much rounds things out for the test bed. Oh, the power supply is in Corsair HX 1000i, and then I also have an extra 1TB SSD connected via USB 3.0, and that's got a bunch of my games and stuff on it. So up on the top, you can see my results from yesterday, and that is with the 1800X, 6850K, and 7700K. This is Cinebench multi-threaded here, Cinebench single-threaded here, and these are the results of multiple tests that I ran in the past week or so. GTA 5 at 1080 is where we saw a good 20 frames per second lagging behind for the 1800X, and I've just rerun all of these tests with my updated system here, and I found that my numbers went down. So this is at stock with the Crosshair 6 Hero. 3.7 and 4.1 gigahertz is what the CPU is running at. 3.7 on all cores, 4.1 gigahertz when it's doing 1 or 2 cores, and I've done none of the optimizations that were recommended by AMD or Asus at this time. So here's my Cinebench score for multi-thread, single thread, and then even my GTA 5 score dropped down from 118 to 105, so I'm not exactly sure what's up with that, but let's see if we can improve that. That's just the starting off point, so we're going to make things better from there. Also really quickly wanted to go over some of the stuff that has been sent to me by vendors. Sorry I'm using ghetto notepad for this, but this first one was from AMD that came in a couple days before launch actually happened. This is when they recommended that you use Windows High Performance Power Profile, and that was to make sure that SenseMI Pure Power and Precision Boost technologies have the ability to respond to varying workloads as quickly as 1 millisecond. So the switching time is slower if you're set to balanced, and it can take up to 30 milliseconds to switch between power states. So we should set it to high performance. That's definitely one thing that we should want to do. Here's another list of things that AMD sent over. Again, this is direct from AMD. This was them addressing some of the information that they were getting about 1080 testing and the gaming performance not being up to snuff. What they're saying is that some games don't reflect that as much as others, and they wanted to make sure that if you are benchmarking games that aren't performing as well, that you maybe get some of the good performing games in there as well. So Sniper Elite 4, Battlefield 1, The Division, Star Wars Battlefronts, Assassin's Creed Syndicate, Battlefield Hardline, Overwatch, Witcher 3, and Dead Rising 4, according to AMD, aren't going to show as much of a performance deficit at least in the 1080 testing from what they're saying. So I'm not testing any of those results, so I'm not going to give it the best run at it in this respect, because I am going to stick with GTA 5 for now. But they've also recommended running the latest BIOS, toggling simultaneous multi-threading on or off, making sure that you're set to the high performance plan. Also a fresh OS image of Windows. Thankfully I have done that. Make sure there are no background CPU or temperature or frequency tools in the background. That's going to be a challenge if we want to actually monitor things while we're doing it, but I'll try with and without. Make sure the system has Windows High Precision Event Timer disabled. Although, when you actually try to use the Ryzen Master software, it tells you to turn on High Precision Event Timer. So you can't really use Ryzen Master to configure things and High Precision Event Timer at the same time right now, which is kind of confusing, but hopefully that will be fixed in the future. And then they also have a note here about Intel platforms, which I don't know. Honestly, I wouldn't really go around changing my Windows testing configuration to accommodate AMD, but there you have it. Anyway, so we're going to try some of that stuff, and since we already started with most of that turned off, let's go ahead and turn some of it on. So I'm going to start out in the BIOS, I think, for overclocking, and I'm going to do what I would probably normally do if I wasn't making a video, which hopefully will make for a good video too, which is to just go ham and kind of try to max out everything right here from the BIOS. We're going to try out DOCP1, which is an overclocking profile that ASUS does, and that is to allow XMP profiles to be used in the BIOS. So this is just going to dial in the DDR4 3000 timings that the memory is supposed to run at. I also did an overclocking preset to extreme tweaker overclocking presets. I know I'm just messing around with the presets here. This has set our BCLK frequency to 112. Could be fun. And then I do want to adjust the voltage here. So again, I'm going with some settings that are recommended by ASUS for this board, which is 1.35 volts on the actual vCore. We're gonna go for 1.2 volts here. Hey, 1.2. Bump up the dim voltage to 1.385, and we'll leave other stuff at auto. Alright, where does this get us right now? Target CPU speed is 3624. It's a weird number due to that BCLK that we got going on right there. So let's do manual CPU core ratio, and let's just FID. FID here is what the frequency is. FID is the core frequency multiplier. DID is the core frequency divisor. So we're just gonna take the FID here and let's set it to. There, 4 gigahertz. FID of 143. Nothing can go wrong. I have no idea what I'm doing. We have fresh Windows install. I'm not running any background CPU temperature frequency tools. High precision event timer is disabled. I can verify that, I know, because when I try to actually do Ryzen Master here, which I'm not going to leave running, by the way, but we can see when I try to engage a different profile, it tells me that HPT is not enabled, so I'm just going to leave that as it is. Oh, and then also, of course, we must go to our power options. Power options, and high performance is what we want. And never go to sleep, computer. You stay awake for all time. Okay, that's probably about enough time. Let's, oh wait, is it still in single? It's still in single core mode. None of that. All right, run. See what happens. Oh dear. I think that means that my overclock is not stable. My moonshot failed. Damn it. Let's do what I would normally do after something like that happens, which is go back to load optimized defaults. We'll start from square one again, and let's just dig through here and try to find the stuff that I think I know what I'm doing with. So it's a divider, so it divides. You divide 40 by 20, and that equals 400. What? So again, the custom CPU core ratio is 2 times the FID divided by the DID. So 2 times 160 is 320, divided by 8 is 4,000, right? I'm sorry, not 4,000, 40 times our base clock gives us 4,000 megahertz. All right, that's starting to make some sense to me. I don't know why they could just do a standard multiplier, but there you go. All right, performance bias we're not going to use. I've manually set the memory to 2933. We're just going for 4 gigahertz overclock, and then I am going to go back again down here to the voltage and do some manual entry so I can tell it exactly what I want it to be, which is 1.35 for the core voltage, 1.2. Hey, manual mode first. 1.2 for the SOC voltage. And the dim voltage we're going to set to 1.385. There we go. Everything else we're going to leave it auto. And let's see how this turns out for us. Cool. Alright, so we have booted into the Windows operating system once again, which I always consider to be a win after dialing in a new overclock. So let's load up Cinebench. I have waited just a few moments for everything to settle down as far as system loading up and everything. And I am running CPU-Z at least at this point because I don't know if this qualifies as one of the monitoring programs, but I did want to verify that yes, we are at 4 gigahertz. And then the voltage is a little bit higher than I dialed in. It's going to about 1.417 right now. But let's see how it handles Cinebench. Preparing the project. And I'm still set to 1 core. Alright, now let's try all cores. That's probably a little bit more serious. Well, shit. Alright, just a small change. I bumped the core voltage, setting the BIOS up to 1.4125, so just above 1.4 volts. We are now actually getting up above 1.5 according to CPU-Z, which is high. But let's see if that changed anything at all. Going for the 8-core test again. 8-core 16-thread test, I should say. And I don't know. Should I keep my hopes up? I mean, it is going, does seem to be doing better than before. I wish I knew how hot everything was getting. The fans certainly are ramping up. Hey, that's an improvement. Look at that, 1758. Success. Okay, so I'm trying to go for 4.1 gigahertz, and I'm probably not going to hit it, but I wanted to give it one more shot. Basically, I used the same settings as last time, which includes the increased voltage to 1.4125, and I have just bumped up the base clock, the BCLK, to 102.6, which gets me up to 4.1 gigahertz and a little over 3,000 megahertz on the memory. And again, no idea if it's going to work or not, but let's give it a shot. Just because I am that curious about the temperatures and everything, I'm going to keep Ryzen Master up at this point. It does have a temperature listing here, and it is already quite warm. I mean, the fact that we're idling around 60 tells me that this probably isn't going to be something we can maintain. But, you know, again, if you had liquid cooling or something, then maybe it would. Maybe this would be more effective. Here goes. That didn't take long. Wow. Not a normal bug either. It was just like, hey, no. Sorry. Alright guys, if this is functional and the temperatures aren't too crazy bad, I'll probably call this as my overclock for my 1800X. Again, I'm doing this pretty quickly. I would normally do much more validation and long-term tests and everything, but for the sake of a quick video just to see you guys see what we can get, this is where we're at. So I have done just a very minor change from that original 4 gigahertz overclock. I bumped the base clock up just ever so slightly, like 1 notch. That's at 100.2, which does get us just above 4,000 megahertz for the CPU frequency, and then for the memory we're running at about 2940, 2950. Just a little bit of boost from that BCLK improvement. Let's hit run here and cross our fingers that we're going to be a reasonable speed. Core speed does look like it's dipping just a little bit. You might see that there. Again, I'm not using strict monitoring software here, but you can see the temperature getting pretty warm there, hitting 81 degrees Celsius. Fans are ramping up. You can probably hear them in the background, but I'm not seeing too much core speed dipping, so that's a good thing. And also, of course, the fact that it hasn't crashed that's also a good thing. So yeah, definitely got pretty hot, but definitely might not want to run this full time, but you know, it does appear to be at least stable for our purposes right now, and a score of 1719 is actually a little bit less than our previous score of 1758, but still not bad at all. And then of course we gotta check GTA 5 with these settings. So with that overclock in place, 4 gigahertz overclock, memory at 2933 or 2950-ish, basically we saw a nice improvement in our Grand Theft Auto scores. Again, this is testing at 1080. I ran through them twice, and I'm just averaging all 5 of the scores from the built-in benchmark. About 129 frames per second, 129 and a half. Still not seeing the same full frame rate that we saw with the 6850K and 7700K, but it is good to know that by increasing the clock speed, we can get a bit more performance out of the 1800X, and this might also mean that if we can hit higher clock speeds with the other CPUs, 1700 and 1700X of course being our 2 options that we have right now, or theoretically even say like the Ryzen 5 CPUs that are supposed to still come out, if those can go higher frequency since they have lower core counts, then we might see better game performance out of them in games where you don't need 8 cores and 16 threads. All that said though, let's get these out of the box. I think I'll start with the 1700. Also, pro tip, if you're going to swap out a CPU from a system you've been overclocking with, always load optimized defaults first. So here's the baselines for the 1700. Again, running at stock. It's supposed to have a 3 gigahertz base and a 3.7 gigahertz boost, but I just noticed it was pretty much running at 3.2 gigahertz all the time. If I wasn't focused on overclocking, I might try to figure out what's going on there, but since I am overclocking, I will just move on and overclock it and run all the cores at a higher frequency. We had a 1375 score in Cinebench. Single thread score was 137, and then in GTA 5 at 1080 we got 108.4 average frames per second. That's actually a little bit faster than the 1800X was in my second test, at least this morning. But bear in mind that was without those optimization steps. So I'm thinking maybe those optimization steps did have some impact on improving this score, although again it's still significantly less than the scores I had in my original test run last week. Now I will overclock, so let's do that. Beautiful, and a nice score too. And hey, here's your proof that if you don't want to pay 500 bucks for an 1800X, you know, pay like what, around a little over 300. You get a 1700, overclock it to 3.9, and then you're just about 100 megahertz short of what a 1800X would be able to do anyway. 1685 though, nice score. And here's the overclocked 1700 score in GTA 5, 125.8. So that gives us the final results here for the overclocked 1700. Very nice boost, I would say, going from the stock frequency up to 3.9 across all cores. And again, a nice boost in the gaming performance. Again, still not quite matching up with the 1800X, and still falling short of the 6850K and 7700K. But again, definitely worth it considering the lower cost of the 1700. So guys, I've jumped ahead a bit. I've spared you the stock testing for the 1700X. Here are the results though. It's a 3.4 gigahertz base clock and 3.8 gigahertz boost clock CPU. However, when I was actually running it, XFR, extended frequency range, was definitely kicking in because it was running at about 3.5 gigahertz base and 3.9 gigahertz boost on a single core. When it was on all cores, it was running at 3.5. And also, I noticed this, and this actually applies to all the tests. The Crosshair 6 Hero is running a 100.6 base clock when I'm using default settings, so that's resulting in slightly higher than actual numbers. So like 3.52 or so gigahertz. Anyway, 1504 was the score for Cinebench, 147 was the score for Cinebench single thread, and 111.1 frames per second on average for GTA 5. And there we have it, guys. Here's my GTA 5 final run benchmark, and I think Although granted, my methodology is not 100% perfect for this video. This is more of a free form. I wanted to benchmark, I wanted to overclock. I'm not doing the proper amount of validation. I'm not running the tests enough times. I'm not even doing the proper burn-in for the CPU to get the proper temperatures. I'm not even really monitoring temperature as accurately as I could. But what I am doing is overclocking these processors, getting achievable, stable overclocks, at least for the tests that I am running, and showing definitely some improved performance from that. So if we look at our 1700X numbers, the Cinebench multi-thread score while overclocked to 4 GHz was 1,714. The single thread score was 161, and GTA 5 got 127.6 frames per second. So again, just a tick slower than the 1800X speeds, also running at 4 GHz, and just a tick faster than the 1700 running at 3.9 GHz. So pretty much expected from all perspectives, except of course the temperature. Again, I would completely disregard my temperature column right there, because yeah, I'm not 100% certain that all those numbers are accurate. But to draw some conclusions from this, because I think we can draw some conclusions despite my already mentioned flawed methodology. One would be that if you're overclocking on Ryzen, it's definitely worth your while. It's definitely going to give you better performance to crank all those cores up to running at a higher frequency, 3.8, 3.9. You should probably expect, based on my testing here, as well as based on vendors and other reviewers who I've talked to, 3.8 to 4 gigahertz you should be able to hit with any of these chips. You might be able to get 4 to 4.1, but beyond that is really, really challenging unless you're doing exotic cooling or LN2 or that kind of thing. Also with voltage, once you get past that 1.4 voltage point, temperatures just start to spike like pretty insanely. So that's why you definitely want to consider a higher-end cooling solution if you're potentially planning to overclock. Although I would like to rerun these tests possibly with an air cooler to see if I could get also in that range without having to spend $100+ on a closed-loop liquid cooler. And finally, to answer that last question about can you fix the Ryzen gaming performance issues that we've been experiencing, especially at 1080, by overclocking, and the answer would be you can make them better, but definitely still haven't seen it achieve the same level of performance as I was hitting with Kaby Lake systems and with Broadwell E systems. So if you're thinking about buying Ryzen and you're just going to be gaming with it, it's still tough to say, yes, go for one of these processors. I would say either hold out for a Ryzen 5 chip, because I'm imagining those are going to give you more bang for the buck when it comes to gaming performance, or if you've already been considering Kaby Lake or Broadwell E, then well, I'd say Kaby Lake, if you're strictly going for a gaming PC, is going to be a good option for you right now. But that's not to say Ryzen doesn't have its place, and if you're doing things beyond just gaming, if you're going to be gaming and streaming at the same time, for example, if you're going to be doing heavy video editing or a whole wide range of actual workstation tasks, then these are awesome values for the money, especially when you can compare them to Intel's higher-end Broadwell E offerings. That's all for this video though, guys. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope it wasn't too long. Hit the thumbs up button if you did, and links to pretty much all the hardware that I used is down in this video's description. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.